Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It feels so good to finally say that. Oh my god. It's honestly felt like a century since I filmed, and it kind of has been. I don't think I filmed a video in like 3 or 4 weeks. So first of all, I want to apologize for not uploading for the past 2 or 3 weeks or so, or however long it's been. Oh my god. You know what? September was just, it was a really hard month for me, and I thought like decreasing uploads to once a week would be fine, but then no, it was not fine. I dealt with a lot of personal stuff in September, but honestly, October has already been a much better month, and we are only a week into it. I hope I am not jinxing myself, and it's gonna be a good month. I'm really enjoying October thus far, and I was originally going to do a different topic this week, but my problem with the topic was that video is already filmed, so that will be coming to you next week, and that one's going to be all about newsletters and how to plan your newsletter, so stay tuned. But the reason I didn't want to post that this week, even though it would have been a little bit easier on me, was just because silly me. I wanted to make a bit of an announcement, and I didn't want to have to add in a clip to that video, so I figured it would be easier just to post this video first, since I was already going to be working on both of them today. And basically, if you follow me on social media, then you already know this, but in case you don't, I just wanted to, say that in case you're like, oh, Ren, huh? Okay, so I get so smiley when I talk about this. If you want more details about this, I do have an Instagram and a Tumblr post linked down below. The Tumblr post talks about the name change in more depth. The Instagram one is a bit more of a reintroduction to myself with some fun facts about me, so go check them out. Basically, I decided to change my name. This has been something that's been in the works for about a year now, and it was really a hard decision to make. It was not one that was easy for me, and I just want to give a huge shout out to all of my phenomenal friends who were just so helpful with this kind of process. You guys are all the best, and you mean so much to me. You know who you are, and seriously, from the bottom of my cold dead heart, thank you. And thank you also to all of the people who have responded so well. So many of you guys I know have been purposely finding ways to call me by my new name Ren, and it really means a lot. It's just, you guys seriously have no idea how much it means to me, so thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, so I am going by Ren from now on, and today I did not just bring you here for this little announcement. I debated making a whole video about the name change and stuff, but I figured since I made the Tumblr post, there was really no point in it. Today, we are going to be talking all about how to handle shitty betas. My first point is what I'm calling point number 0, which is, do they really suck? I'm sorry, I have to say it. Obviously, beta readers do suck sometimes, and that's what this entire video is about. But sometimes you have to really think if a beta reader actually sucks, or if you're just being a wee bit over dramatic. Because sometimes writers will say, I have the worst beta reader. They gave me criticism that I asked for. Don't they know that all I want is compliments and good feedback from the beta reader process? I don't actually want to know anything negative about my work. And of course, we have the writers who are all like, if my betas don't respond to me within 5 minutes, I obviously have an awful beta reader. I mean, come on. Don't my beta readers know that they are required to respond to me in 5 minutes? Because obviously I am the most important part of their lives, and they have nothing else to be working on at the moment other than to be beta reading my book. How dare they have other aspects of their lives? That's just rude. And next, we have what I call point 0.5, which is to use your goddamn brain. Because in all seriousness, sometimes beta readers really do suck, but it can also be kind of hard to determine what makes them a bad beta reader, or again, if you're being a little bit too over dramatic or whatever. So to help you with this, I am listing the 5 most common ways that beta readers just aren't the best. With each of these ways, I'm going to just kind of list some examples of these types of beta readers and how exactly you can help them suck less so that you can get the most out of your beta reader process. Okay, awesome. Let's get into the types of betas. So First of all, we have the beta that takes a century and a half to respond to you at all. In my experience with the beta reader process, this is by far the most common type of beta reader that I've personally had, and based on my conversations with other writers, I'm not the only one. Like I mentioned earlier, you cannot expect for your beta readers to be putting to beta read your book at the forefront of all of their responsibilities. Like, calm down. But it's when a beta reader does not respond for 1, 2, 3, sometimes even 4 weeks at a time, where it's like, alrighty then. And out of all of these points, I feel like this one is the most obvious if it's happening, because you know, time is a pretty objective thing. But regardless, here is an example. For my last round of beta readers, I told all my betas that they were expected to read 1 batch of chapters, which for the most part included a total of 3 chapters, and I believe I told them that they had to submit their answers by Monday. Now, if a beta reader submitted their responses on the following Tuesday, okay, fine. But if they submitted their responses on the following Sunday, maybe not so much, you know, maybe that's a bit of a problem. So if a beta reader is taking a little bit longer than you would like for them to respond, if this happens, the best thing to do is just, as soon as you can, send them a message. And since us writers suck at trying to find things to say, here's an example for you. Hey, name, thank you so much for giving me your feedback for the last batch of chapters. It was super helpful. Could you possibly just try and get the next batch of chapters to me in a bit more of a timely manner in the future? If there's anything that I can do to help you be able to get the feedback back to me on time, please let me know. And again, thank you so much for being a part of my beta reader process. I really appreciate it. Regardless of how you are wording this message, simply reminding your beta readers to respond in a reasonable amount of time can go a really long way. And for most betas, they really just need that reminder from you, and then they're set for the rest of the process. Now, I will be the first person to say that I think it is completely fine if your beta reader is late once or twice or 3 times throughout the process. However, if they are constantly being a fairly long amounts of time late, so for example, if they are constantly giving you the feedback 10, 11, 12, 14 days late, that is when you kind of want to move into considering to drop them from the process. In my opinion, if a beta reader is consistently late, it's usually best to drop them from the process, just because we don't have all day. We do need our betas to be responding in a timely manner. So if a beta looks like they cannot do that, in my opinion, it is best to drop them. But if you are fine with kind of extending your round that extra amount of time to allow for your beta readers to be a little bit more late in their responses, that is totally fine. It's really just up to you and your timelines and what you want to do. And then of course, if you have the betas to spare, because at least for me with my last round, I was very hesitant to drop any of my betas just because I didn't have like any extra betas. So, you know, if I took any of my betas out of the beta read process, I didn't really have the like number of betas that I wanted to be able to go through their feedback. Which is why, for me personally, I did not like take out any of my betas. Which is why for my next round, and I would recommend that you do this as well, make sure that you recruit a few more betas than you think that you're going to need. So for example, I recommend for each round that you have at least 10 betas. You might want to recruit 15 betas just to make sure that you have enough betas throughout the process, and so that you're not kind of stuck in that place where I was. And then the second type of beta reader is the classic beta reader, and these are the betas who just give you very vague and unhelpful answers. I've been very lucky with my beta reader round, since I honestly haven't had that many betas who've had this problem, and of these betas that I've had, usually I can just send them a quick message and then that's fine. So as far as just kind of trying to tell if a beta reader really is being vague, typically this comes in the form of them just being like, I liked it, it was good, it was fine, that kind of thing. And if you're unsure if a beta reader is really giving you vague responses, there are 2 things that you can do. Number 1, you can compare their feedback to your other beta reader's feedback. So for example, let's say that beta reader A is averaging about 1 to 2 sentences per question, but you are hoping for your beta readers to average 4 to 5 sentences per question, and let's say that the rest of your beta readers are averaging from 4 to 9 sentences per question. Then from that you can tell that that beta reader A is being a lot more vague than the rest of your beta readers. The second thing that you can do is, if you're really unsure, ask other people for their opinion. So sometimes what I've done is I have sent some of my very close friends screenshots of beta reader feedback with blocking out their names and just asking them if they thought that this was really vague feedback, because I wanted to talk to the beta reader about it, but I wasn't quite sure if it really qualified as vague feedback. So when in doubt, you can always ask other people for their opinion. And once you've determined if a beta reader has been giving you vague or unhelpful feedback, my answer to like the solution to this is pretty much identical to that of the previous question. So I would just shoot them a message explaining that you really appreciated their feedback, but you needed a little bit more from them. And again, just like I said for the last question, so if you have talked to them and they are not being more helpful, honestly, just drop them, because it's one thing to have a beta reader who is a little bit late in the process, but to have a beta reader who really isn't helping you at all is kind of just a waste of everyone's time. And I definitely think that you are well within your rights to drop a beta reader if they're really just not being helpful at all. And next, number 3 is the hateful beta reader. We are jumping into the not so fun betas, so yay! So hateful beta readers can come in many forms, and I feel like this is the most common form of betas, where writers think that betas are being hateful, but they're really not. So to help you try and decide this, I've got 2 examples for you. Now, I'm not going to say which one is like a hateful one and which one is just a critical one, but I think that once hearing it, it'll kind of help you try and decide upon this for yourself. So, example number 1. The opening scene in this batch dragged for me a little bit. I feel like there were a lot of descriptions of the woods when it probably could have been summarized in a few sentences, and you really glossed over the fight scene, which is what I wanted to hear more about. So I would just recommend to lessen your descriptions on the forest and focus more so on the fight scene, and really allowing for the reader to have a more visual experience of the fights. And now we've got example number 2. God, I would have loved this chapter, but good God, that description of the woods, it lasted a century and a half, man. I seriously did not think that part was ever going to end. Like, woods do not need 5 pages of description, okay? What the hell are you thinking? And the fight scene, oh my God. It could have been interesting, but that shit ended in like a paragraph, and I'm just sitting here like, wow, you spent fucking 5 pages on this woods, but what, half a page on the fight scene? Like, who taught you how to write? Oh my God. Now, I think it's obvious, but that first one was a critical beta reader. That one might have hurt your feelings just a little bit, but it's probably fine. The second one, I had a lot of fun acting out, but that beta is an asshole and very hateful, and that's not going to help you at all. And in my experience, when you deal with hateful beta readers, it's really hard, because typically, in my opinion, you can find bits of criticism within their hate. Like, for example, from that hateful example that I gave you, if you really tried, you could really think about the fact that they did technically mention that the wood scene was too long and that the fight scene needed to be a bit longer, but you're not going to want to try and decipher that from all of the fucking bullshit. So with this example of a beta reader, I would just say that I would message them once or twice, but if they are constantly being hateful, drop that bitch. Then the 4th type of beta reader is the bigoted beta reader. Fun, right? I don't think writers really talk about beta readers being bigots, because no one wants to talk about it, you know? No one wants to mention that when you have a ton of representation in a novel that you're super proud of, and then one of your beta readers is like, ha, all of that representation, I'm gonna use all of that to be a giant ass bigot. But on the bright side, I feel like bigoted betas tend to be the least common. Like, out of everyone on this list, the bigoted beta reader is definitely something that I don't have too much experience with, but at least in my opinion, it's probably the most frustrating beta that you will ever experience, especially if you're like me and you do not tolerate bigots. So just let me be very clear when I say that someone is not a bigot just because they're not a huge fan of a character that happens to be a part of a minority group, but they are a bigot if they say bigoted things. And this is going to be really obvious, but some examples could include slurs. You'd think betas would know not to say slurs when they're not a part of that group, but common sense ain't common. And obviously that example is really obvious, but some other more like hidden examples could be a beta reader putting your lesbian character onto such a high standard that if she fucks up at all, they hate the bitch. But a straight character could do horrendous things, like the most awful things, and then the beta reader would be like, I think that's fine. Now, with bigoted beta readers, I would say 9 times out of 10 you can probably reach them, but sometimes people say stuff and you don't want to reach them. I had my first bigoted beta reader was in my first round of betas. I'm not going to repeat what they said, but I will just say one of my main characters of my current work in progress, Lost in Blue, is non-binary, and one of my beta readers, when Sophia had their introduction, it said some really transphobic shit. And do you think that I tried to reason with them? No, I hit them with that block button and moved right along because I did not want to deal with that shit. So yeah, most of the time you can probably just message the beta reader and explain why what they said was bigoted and see what they say. But if they are just going to stay the same way, honestly, just drop them out of your beta reader process. You do not need that shit in your life. And lastly, we have number 5, Outlier Betas. I originally had this title Dumb Betas, but that felt a little mean, so we're going to go with Outlier Betas. And Outlier Betas, they're the betas that we have the rest of the beta readers, right? And they all are agreeing on some things. But then we have the outlier. Who's the outlier? They don't agree. They hate the love interest. All of your other betas could be raving about how amazing the love interest is. And then we have the one outlier who's like, hate the bitch. Or, of course, we have the lovely, the amazing, the phenomenal times when betas just don't understand concepts like, just because you're writing a fantasy romance does not mean that your book needs to include romance. Like, it's not like that's a part of the genre or anything like that. It's not like the writer has made it abundantly clear that this is a romance. Like, what, romance? What? I'm so surprised. Like, who could have seen this coming? Outlier betas, I hesitated to put them on this list only because I don't really think that they're bad betas, you know? It's not like they're hating on you, or it's not like they're taking a century and have to respond. They just have really obscure opinions sometimes, and that happens in every beta process. I'm putting it on this list because outlier betas aren't, you know, they're not exactly ideal. And my advice to dealing with outlier betas is to just recognize the fact that some people are going to have weird opinions. That's just how it be sometimes. So yeah, just because someone is an outlier beta doesn't mean that you should just drop them from your process, but if they fit any of the other categories, which I feel like is pretty common for outlier betas, then you might want to drop them after trying to smooth things over. But like for just being an outlier beta, I don't think that's cause to drop them from your process. It's just a part of the process. It's fine. You'll be fine. And with that being said, I've been filming for half an hour. I am so tired, so sweaty, so I'm gonna go. But thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please give it a big thumbs up and hit that big red subscribe button down below and turn those post notifications so that you know every time that I upload. And without anything else to say, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!